Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting journey into the world of British coins and hidden treasures. Today, we are looking at 3 United Kingdom 1-penny coins that deserve special attention from collectors. A 1-penny coin may look ordinary at first, especially when it has been circulated, dirty, worn, or even slightly damaged, but certain dates, varieties, minting characteristics, and high-grade examples can make particular pennies much more interesting in the collector market. In this video, we are going to explore our top 3 United Kingdom 1-penny coins, focusing on different years, conditions, and minting details, while also discussing what makes them desirable and what collectors should look for before deciding on their value. Let's get started. First up, the 1896 United Kingdom 1-penny featuring Queen Victoria. Even when an 1896 penny is found in damaged, worn, scratched, or heavily circulated condition, it can still attract attention because it is more than a piece of old bronze. It is a surviving coin from the final years of Queen Victoria's long reign. The 1896 penny belongs to the Victoria Veiled Head series, and documented auction results show that examples of this date can range from modest amounts in circulated grades to substantially higher prices when the coin survives in exceptional condition. For example, recorded sales include an uncirculated 1896 example at $228 and another at $264, while lower-grade examples have sold for around the low teens in dollars. The year 1896 places this penny firmly in the closing chapter of Queen Victoria's reign. Victoria had ruled Britain since 1837, and by 1896 the British Empire was at an important stage of its history. The penny was one of the most familiar denominations in everyday British commerce, and millions were produced for circulation. Published mintage information lists approximately 24,147,000 pennies for 1896, meaning this is not considered an ultra-low mintage date in the same way as some famous Victorian rarities. However, mintage alone does not determine collector interest. After more than a century, surviving examples vary enormously in quality, and collectors often search specifically for attractive examples, unusual die characteristics, original surfaces, and coins with clear details. The 1896 penny is especially recognizable because it carries the mature, veiled portrait of Queen Victoria on the obverse. The design represents Victoria in the later part of her reign and is surrounded by the traditional inscriptions and toothed border associated with the series. The reverse features the familiar seated Britannia design, an iconic symbol of Britain that appeared on Victorian pennies. The coin is a substantial bronze piece, with catalogue information giving a diameter of about 30.8 millimeters and a weight around 9.45 grams. When examining a damaged example, collectors should pay particular attention to the date, portrait details, Britannia's features, lettering, rim, and any unusual characteristics. Damage may reduce the commercial grade, but it does not automatically remove the coin's historical or collecting interest. Now we come to one of the most important points: how rare is an 1896 penny when it is damaged? The answer requires some care. The 1896 date itself was produced in considerable numbers, so it should not be described as an extremely rare date simply because the coin is old. But a damaged survivor can still be interesting to collectors who specialize in Victorian pennies, Queen Victoria coinage, British bronze issues, or historical currency. Scratches, dents, corrosion, edge damage, discoloration, cleaning, and heavy wear can all affect desirability and price. At the same time, collectors sometimes prefer an original, naturally aged coin over one that has been aggressively cleaned or artificially restored. The key is authenticity and recognizable detail. An 1896 penny with strong lettering, a clearly readable date, and an identifiable portrait can remain a useful addition to a Victorian collection even when its condition is far from mint state. When discussing value, it is important not to confuse the prices of high-grade examples with the value of a damaged coin. Recent recorded sales provide a useful picture of the market. Numismatics records an 1896 penny graded AU selling for approximately $12.70, while an XF example sold for approximately $11.55 in a 2025 auction listing. In contrast, significantly better preserved uncirculated examples have achieved $228 and $264 in documented heritage auction sales. London Coins also recorded an 1896 Freeman 143 penny in UNC condition selling for £32 in March 2026 and another UNC example with near full luster selling for £70 in December 2025. These results demonstrate how dramatically condition can influence value. For a genuinely damaged 1896 penny, a realistic market discussion would generally place it considerably below the prices achieved by high-grade certified examples. Depending on the severity of the damage, originality, detail, and buyer interest, a damaged example might attract only a few dollars or perhaps more from the right collector. The important message is that $200 plus auction results belong to exceptional condition examples, not ordinary damaged pieces. If you have an 1896 penny in damaged condition, the first thing you should do is avoid making the damage worse. Do not polish it, scrape the surface, or use harsh chemicals to make the bronze look brighter. Cleaning can permanently alter the original surface and may make an otherwise interesting historical coin less desirable to collectors. Instead, examine the coin under good lighting and record everything you can see. Make sure the 1896 date is completely clear, inspect both sides for unusual details, and look carefully around the portrait, lettering, Britannia, shield, trident, and rim. Compare the coin with reliable photographs and auction records, and if you believe it has an unusual variety or exceptionally strong surfaces, professional authentication and grading may be worth considering. Remember that grading is especially important when a coin may have a valuable variety, because condition and originality can make a major difference in the final price. So, is an 1896 United Kingdom 1 penny in damaged condition worth keeping? Absolutely, especially if you enjoy Victorian coinage and British history. It is not accurate to call every 1896 penny a great rarity, because millions were struck. Next up, the United Kingdom 1 penny dated 1890, featuring Queen Victoria. At first glance, a dirty or heavily circulated 1890 penny might not look particularly valuable, but coins like this can still attract collectors because of their age, historical importance, design, and connection to the Victorian era. The 1890 penny was struck in bronze at the London Mint, with a recorded mintage of about 15.33 million pieces. That means this is not an extremely low mintage date, but nearly 136 years of age gives surviving examples an important place in collections of Victorian British coinage. The year 1890 places this penny firmly in the later Victorian period, when Queen Victoria had already ruled Britain for more than half a century. The British Empire was at the height of its influence, and the penny was an important everyday denomination used by ordinary people for small purchases. The coin belongs to the familiar Victorian bronze penny series and carries the historic portrait of Queen Victoria on the obverse. The reverse features Britannia seated with her traditional symbols, together with the denomination 1 penny and the date 1890. Historical auction descriptions identify the coin as bronze, with a standard 1890 issue catalogued as S3954 and kilometre 755. One of the most interesting features of the 1890 penny is its classic Victorian appearance. Queen Victoria's portrait gives the coin immediate historical character, while Britannia on the reverse represents Britain itself and became one of the most recognisable designs in British coinage. The coin is also substantial compared with many modern pennies, measuring roughly 30.7 millimeters in diameter. Its bronze composition and large size make it particularly attractive to collectors who enjoy holding and examining 19th century British coins. Even when an example has dirt, dark toning, scratches, or significant circulation wear, the fundamental historical design can remain remarkably recognizable. Now let's talk about rarity and collector demand, especially when we are dealing with a dirty condition example. It is important to understand that an 1890 penny should not automatically be described as an ultra-rare coin simply because it is more than a century old. The recorded mintage of approximately 15.33 million means that surviving examples exist, and ordinary worn pieces can be found at relatively modest prices. However, rarity in coin collecting is not determined by age alone. Condition, originality, eye appeal, varieties, provenance, and demand can all influence what collectors are willing to pay. A dirty example can therefore be historically interesting while still selling for a relatively accessible amount. Current market references place ordinary 1890 pennies at modest values in lower grades, while significantly better preserved examples can bring considerably more. The auction market gives us a useful picture of how dramatically condition can affect this coin. In March 2026, London Coins recorded an 1890 penny graded extremely fine with lustre selling for £44, showing that a well-preserved example can attract meaningful collector interest. Another 1890 penny listed by Coins Trail from a March 2026 auction was recorded as extremely fine and sold for about $67. At the higher end, professionally certified examples can perform much better. Heritage Auctions sold an 1890 Victoria penny graded MS63 Brown by NGC for $114 in May 2026, while a PCGS MS64 Red example previously sold for $132. A certified MS64 Red and Brown example also realized $130 at Heritage's 2013 auction. These results demonstrate that the strongest prices are generally associated with superior preservation rather than ordinary dirty or heavily circulated pieces. So, what could a dirty 1890 United Kingdom 1 penny realistically be worth in dollars? For an ordinary circulated example with dirt, dark surfaces, noticeable wear, or unattractive toning, a reasonable market expectation is generally in the low single-digit dollar range, depending on the coin's exact condition and authenticity. Some reference values for the 1890 issue show approximately 40 cents in lower condition and values rising through several grades, while other market guides put fine examples around the equivalent of roughly $10 or less depending on the pricing source and market. Individual worn examples have also sold online for around $1.79. Therefore, collectors should be careful about claims that every dirty 1890 penny is worth hundreds, thousands, or millions of dollars. The much stronger auction prices belong to exceptional, high-grade, certified, or otherwise special examples. The good news is that a dirty appearance does not mean you should immediately dismiss the coin. In fact, collectors often prefer original surfaces over coins that have been aggressively cleaned. If you discover an 1890 penny, examine the date carefully and make sure the last digit really is a 0. Look closely at the Queen Victoria portrait, the Britannia reverse, the lettering, and the overall surface. Check for unusual die characteristics, possible varieties, or evidence that the coin has been altered. Most importantly, avoid harsh cleaning, polishing, chemicals, or abrasive materials. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surface and may reduce the coin's desirability to serious collectors. If your 1890 penny appears unusually sharp, has strong original detail, attractive natural color, or exceptionally clean surfaces, professional authentication and grading may be worth considering. Certified high-grade examples demonstrate why condition matters so much in this series. For example, recent auction evidence shows a certified MS63 brown example at $114, while other high-grade certified pieces have reached or exceeded $130. Exceptional examples can command substantially higher prices, and specialized auction records for the date show that the finest pieces can move far beyond the value of ordinary circulated coins. For collectors, the 1890 Victorian penny is therefore an excellent example of how coin value works. The date itself provides historical interest, but the condition determines a large part of the financial story. A dirty circulated coin may be an affordable entry into Victorian numismatics, while a beautifully preserved example can become a much more desirable collectible. Instead of judging the coin only by its age or by dramatic internet claims, compare it with documented auction results and reputable price guides. Next up, the United Kingdom 1 penny dated 1879, especially an example found in bad or heavily circulated condition. At first glance, a worn, dark, scratched, or damaged old penny might not look particularly valuable, but coins from the Victorian period can still attract collectors because of their age, historical importance, varieties, and surviving examples. The 1879 penny is especially interesting because approximately 7,666,000 examples were struck, and surviving coins can show different varieties that collectors actively study. Today, we will explore its history, design, rarity, collector demand, realistic auction market values in US dollars, and the important details you should check before deciding what your coin might be worth. The 1879 United Kingdom penny was produced during the reign of Queen Victoria, one of the most important periods in British monetary history. This was the era of the famous Victorian bun head portrait, a design that appeared on British pennies for decades. The coin was struck in bronze and measured approximately 31 millimeters across, with a weight of about 9.4 grams. The London Mint produced the regular 1879 issue, and historical references record a mintage of roughly 7.665 million pieces. These numbers tell us that the coin was not an extremely low mintage issue, but that does not mean every surviving example is common. More than a century of circulation, handling, cleaning, corrosion, and environmental exposure has removed many coins from collectible condition. That is one reason collectors remain interested in identifying genuine 1879 examples and studying their varieties. One of the first things that makes this penny recognizable is Queen Victoria's portrait on the obverse. The reverse features Britannia seated with her traditional symbols, creating the classic appearance associated with Victorian British pennies. Collectors should pay close attention to the date, lettering, portrait details, and the design of the wreath because 1879 has recognized varieties. Numista records a major 1879 variety involving a large date and raised lines in the wreath, while other references also identify a narrow date variety and an unusual large date variety with incuse lines. These small differences can become very important when a coin is examined by an experienced collector. Therefore, even if your example is dirty or worn, do not immediately dismiss it. A damaged coin can still be interesting if it possesses a distinctive variety, unusual die characteristics, or another feature that separates it from the ordinary examples. Now let's talk about the most important point. What happens when an 1879 penny is in bad condition? A heavily worn coin generally commands much less than a fine, very fine, extremely fine, or uncirculated example because collectors place a strong premium on readable details and attractive surfaces. However, bad condition does not automatically make an old coin worthless. The historical age of the piece, its authenticity, its variety, and its overall availability can still create collector interest. Current catalogue information gives comparatively modest values for ordinary low-grade 1879 pennies, while varieties can have noticeably different valuations. This is why collectors should separate the idea of old from rare. The 1879 penny is over 140 years old, but its value depends heavily on exactly which variety you have and how much original detail remains. When it comes to realistic market value, it is important not to confuse a damaged Victorian penny with a spectacular high-grade rarity. One current reference lists the ordinary 1879 penny at approximately 92 cents in good condition, around $1.03 in very good, approximately $1.17 in fine, about $1.67 in very fine, and around $3.43 in extremely fine, with higher grade examples reaching more. Another market guide lists a 1879 Victorian penny at about £6 in fine, £18 in very fine, £60 in extremely fine, and £370 in uncirculated condition, demonstrating how dramatically condition can influence value. Actual auction results can be considerably stronger for desirable varieties and well-preserved examples. For example, London coins recorded a 1879 Freeman 97 penny in uncirculated condition selling for £75 in June 2026, another uncirculated example selling for £60, a narrow date Freeman 98 in fine selling for £95, and an extremely fine Freeman 97 selling for £46. These results show that variety and grade can make a major difference. For a genuinely bad condition, ordinary 1879 penny, collectors should generally expect a much more modest value, often around the low dollar range, while an identifiable scarce variety in better condition can move substantially higher. If you have an 1879 penny in poor condition, the first rule is simple: do not clean it aggressively. Scrubbing, polishing, chemicals, or abrasive materials can permanently damage the original surface and may reduce its collector appeal. Instead, examine the coin under good lighting and use a magnifying glass to study the date, portrait, lettering, wreath, and other design details. Compare the coin with reliable references and look carefully for the known 1879 varieties. If the coin appears unusually interesting, consider having it examined by a reputable numismatist or specialist auction house. Also remember that auction prices are not guaranteed prices. The final amount can change depending on authenticity, variety, grade, eye appeal, buyer demand, auction fees, and the number of bidders competing for the coin. So, what is the big story behind the United Kingdom 1 penny of 1879? It is a fascinating Victorian bronze coin with more than a century of history behind it, and while millions were originally produced, surviving examples can vary enormously in condition and variety. A badly damaged ordinary example may have only modest monetary value, but it can still be a wonderful piece of British history and an important addition to a Victorian collection. Evidence shows that better grades and recognized varieties can bring substantially stronger prices than heavily worn pieces. So, if you have an 1879 penny sitting in an old box, drawer, or family collection, take another look. That worn little Victorian coin may not be a fortune, but it could contain exactly the kind of historical detail that makes coin collecting so exciting. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more rare British coins, valuable pennies, auction results, and fascinating numismatic discoveries.